Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the EHF offices here in Vienna. It's a busy and exciting week of club competition action across our competitions, but it's national team competitions that we're here for today as we draw the exciting and important under-age category Euros and Championships for the under-17 and under-19 Euro and Championships in the women. We've got a lot to get through this morning, so let's take a look at our first draw, which will be the under-17 Women's Euro, which this time will take place in Montenegro. So let's take a quick look at the pots that make up this draw. In pot 1, we've got Denmark, France, Hungary and Sweden. Pot 2, Austria, Germany, Norway and Russia. Pot 3, we've got Montenegro, Romania, Slovenia and Slovakia. And in pot 4, Croatia, Czech Republic, Portugal and Switzerland. Now, to help make the draw, we've got two legends of the EHF Club Competitions Department, Markus Glaser and first Peter Schisselsmith. So guys, it's over to you for the first draw.
Hello everybody, also welcome from our side. Some small information concerning the draw procedure. As you may know, the draw procedure is the same as usual. That's why we start with pot 4, continue with pot 2, and then pot 1. And after pot 4, 2 and 1, the rows 4, 2 and 1 are determined. Montenegro, as organizer, has the free choice to use to choose the group. And yeah, that's why we will have a very small interruption to get in contact with Montenegro. But enough words, now we can start. We take the first team of pot 4. The first team drawn is Croatia. And Croatia goes to Group B. The second team, Czech Republic. And Czech Republic will go to Group D. Portugal. And Portugal will play in Group C. Switzerland. And Switzerland plays in Group A. We continue with pot 2 for row 2. And the first team in row 2 is Germany. Oops. Germany goes to Group D. The next team, Austria. And Austria plays in Group A. Norway. Norway plays in Group C. And the last team in row 2, Russia. And Russia goes to Group B. We continue with pot 1. And the first team in row 1, Sweden. Sweden will play in Group B. Second team, Hungary. Hungary, Group C. France. And France will join the teams in Group D. Denmark, the last team in pot 1. And Denmark goes to Group A. Before we have a very small interruption, we take the ball of Montenegro, the yellow marked one. Montenegro, and now it's up to Montenegro to decide in which group they want to play. Andrew?
Thank you, guys. Let's take a quick look whilst we're waiting for the Montenegrin Handball Federation to make that decision. Let's take a quick look at the groups as they stand then. So in Group A so far, whilst we're waiting for the final pot to be drawn, we've got Denmark, Austria and Switzerland. In Group B, Sweden, Russia and Croatia. And in Group C, Hungary, Norway and Portugal. And in Group D, France, Germany and the Czech Republic. So we've just had confirmation from the Montenegrin Handball Federation that they would like to go into Group A. So they will go alongside Denmark, Austria and Switzerland. And we head back now to the guys that will make the decisions. Actually, we'll just give it one more minute. So Montenegro, the hosts, the first time that they will be hosting the tournament, this particular tournament, the Women's 17 Euro 2021. It will take place in Podgorica between the 5th and the 10th of August, and the Montenegrin Federation have decided that Group A is for them, alongside Denmark, of course, the 3 times winners themselves, Switzerland and Austria. Just taking a look back at the other groups, Group B, Sweden, Russia and Croatia, Group C, Hungary, Norway and Portugal, and Group D, France, Germany and the Czech Republic. And now we'll head back to the guys to see who Romania, Slovenia and Slovakia will meet.
Okay, hello again. We continue with the 3 remaining teams in pot 3. And the first team is Romania. Romania completes Group D. Second team, Slovakia. And Slovakia completes Group C. And the last team, Slovenia. And Slovenia completes Group B.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Marcus. So now that is complete, let's take a quick look at what that means for the Women's 17 EHF Euro 2021. It will take place in Podgorica in Montenegro between the 5th and 15th of August this summer. In Group A, the hosts, Montenegro, they decided to go alongside Denmark, Austria and Switzerland. Of course, Denmark, the 3 times winners, obviously winning it last in 2015. In Group B, Slovenia, Sweden, Russia and Croatia, 2 previous winners of the competition in there, in Sweden and Russia. Russia, of course, that have medalled 8 times at this level, 3 gold, 4 silver and 1 bronze, winning last in 2011. In Group C, we've got Slovakia, Hungary, of course, who won the last time that this competition was played back in 2019. They go alongside Norway as well, who were runners-up in 2017. Norway actually won the first ever Women's 17 Euro back in 1992. And finally making up the last spot in Group D are Portugal. And finally, Group D, Romania were the last team to come out of Pot 3 to head that group, followed by France, who won it back in 2007, and won bronze last time out in 2019. They're also joined by Germany, who won this in 2017, and finally making up Group D is the Czech Republic. So that is the final groups completed for the women's 17. And now it is time to head to our next draw, and the women's 19, which will be taking place in Slovenia between the 8th and the 18th of July. Same draw procedure applies here, but here's a look at the pots. Pot 1 contains Denmark, France, Hungary and Sweden. Pot 2, we've got Austria, Germany, Norway and Russia. Pot 3, Montenegro, Romania, Slovenia and Slovakia. And finally in pot 4, Croatia, Czech Republic, Portugal and Switzerland. So for the second time, it's back to Peter and Marcus.
Hello again. Same procedure as Andrew mentioned. We start with pot 4, we continue with pot 2, then we finalize the first step with pot 1, and then Slovenia has the right to choose the group after the first 3 rows, row 4, 2 and 1 are determined. We start with pot 4 for row 4. Please, Marcus. The first team, Czech Republic. Czech Republic goes to Group D. Croatia. Croatia goes to Group C. Portugal. Portugal in Group B. And the last team in row 4, Switzerland. Switzerland in Group A. This completes row 4. We continue with row 2 and pot 2. Germany. Germany in Group A. Austria. Austria in Group C. Norway. Norway in Group D. And the last team in pot 2, Russia. And Russia goes to Group B. We continue with pot 1. First team in row 1, Sweden. And Sweden is playing in Group B. Hungary. Hungary goes to Group D. Denmark. Denmark will play in Group A. France. France in Group C. Now we go to the organizer's pot. This is pot 3, and we choose the red ball, which should contain Slovenia. This is the case. Slovenia has now the right to choose the group after row 4, 2 and 1 are determined. See you soon.
Thank you, guys. So let's take a quick look whilst we're waiting on the decision from the Slovenian Handball Federation. Let's take a look at what the groups look like right now before the final pot is drawn. In Group A, we've got Denmark, Germany and Switzerland. In Group B, we've got Sweden, Russia and Portugal. In Group C, we've France, Austria and Croatia. And in pot D so far, we've got Hungary, Norway and the Czech Republic. We have been informed that it's going to be pot A for the host Slovenia. This competition, of course, will be taking place in Celje between the 8th and the 18th of July. This is the second time that Slovenia have hosted this Women's 19 Euro, having last done so in 2017. And they will take their place in Group A. So let's head back to Peter and Marcus to find out the remaining sides and where they will be in the draw.
Okay, hello again. We continue with the 3 teams in pot 3, and we start with the first team. It's up to you. Montenegro is the second team in row 3. And they will join the teams in Group C. Slovakia. Slovakia goes to Group B. And the last team, Romania. And Romania goes to Group D.
Thank you, guys. That completes the draw for the Women's 19 EHF Euro 2021. Let's take a look then at what that means for the 4 groups for this competition that will run between the 8th and the 18th of July this summer. Let's take you through it then. Group A, Denmark, obviously one of the most competitive teams in the history of this competition. 6 medals. They lead Group A. They will also be joined by Germany and Slovenia and the host Slovenia and Switzerland. In Group B, the quartet in here, Sweden, the top team out in this group, Russia, of course, 8 times medalists, 3 times winners. They're also in Group B alongside Slovakia and Portugal. In Group C, we have the French, who won this in 2017. We also have Austria and Montenegro and Croatia lining up in Group C. In Group C. In Group D, we've got 2 former winners of this competition. Hungary, who hosted and won the 2019 edition, and Norway, who won this back in 2009, are actually bronze medalists last time out in 2 years ago. They're also joined by Romania and the Czech Republic. So that is the groups. Group A, Denmark, Germany, Slovenia and Switzerland. In Group B, Sweden, Russia, Slovakia and Portugal. France, Austria, Montenegro and Croatia in Group C. Hungary, Norway, Romania and the Czech Republic making up Group D. So just to confirm, this will be taking place in Celje in Slovenia between the 8th and the 18th of July. Just one final look. Denmark, Germany, Slovenia, Switzerland, Group A. Group B, Sweden, Russia, Slovakia and Portugal. Group C, France, Austria, Montenegro and Croatia. Group D, Hungary, Norway, Romania, and finally the Czech Republic. So that concludes our draws as far as the Euros are concerned, and now it is time to turn our attention to the Championships. We have 4 draws coming up in total across the 2 age groups. And first we head to the Under-17 Championships, the first of which will take place in Tbilisi in Georgia between the 7th and 15th of August. Let's take a look at the first draw then. 2 nations in 2 nations in 5 pots and 1 in pot 6. As you see there, in pot 1 we've got the Netherlands and Serbia. Pot 2, Italy and Ukraine. Pot 3, the Faroe Islands and Georgia. Pot 4, Greece and Israel. Pot 5, Bosnia-Herzegovina and Estonia. And finally, in pot 6, it is Luxembourg. So, without further ado, it's back to Peter and Marcus for the draw.
Hello again. Some small remarks concerning the draw procedure. As you know, Georgia, the organizer, is in pot 3, so we will draw pot 3 as last to get in contact with Georgia, which group they want to join after row 6, 5, 4, 2 and 1 are determined. The first step here is very easy because we start from the bottom to the top and from the left to the right. We start with pot 6. This is Luxembourg. It's not a warm-up, it's necessary. Luxembourg goes to row 6 on the left side in group A. Now we continue with pot 5 to row 5. And the first team is Bosnia-Herzegovina. That means Bosnia-Herzegovina goes to group A and Estonia in row 5 to group B. We continue with pot 4. The team which goes to group A is Greece. And Israel goes to group B. We continue with pot 2. Ukraine to group A. And Italy plays in group B. And the first team in row 1, group A, Netherlands. And in group B, we'll play Serbia. So now, Georgia, in the yellow pot, has the right to choose the group. We are already in contact with Georgia, and we are waiting for their decision.
Thank you, guys. So let's take a look, whilst we're waiting for the Georgian Handball Federation to make that decision, at what the groups look like as it stands. In Group A, the Netherlands, Ukraine, Greece, Bosnia-Herzegovina and Luxembourg. In the Group A, of course, which will contain 6 nations. And in Group B, which will contain 5. We have got Serbia, Italy, Israel, and Estonia. So we're just waiting for the Georgian Handball Federation to give us that decision whether they will go in Group A or B, and obviously leaving Georgia to fill that remaining space. Obviously, just a quick recap. Group A, the Netherlands, currently top of that, Ukraine, Greece, Bosnia, Herzegovina and Luxembourg. Group B, Serbia, Italy, Israel and Estonia. And we have got word from the Georgian Federation, who have said that they wish to be placed in Group A. So it's back to Marcus and Peter for the formalities.
The last step in the first Women's 17 Championship is now done with the choice of Georgia. Georgia goes to Group A, so Faroe Island goes to Group B.
So there we have it. Thank you, guys. Group A complete, Group B complete. Here's the rundown then. In Group A, the Netherlands, Ukraine. They were third in this competition back in 2019. Georgia, of course, who will be hosting this in Tbilisi. Obviously, the dates for this competition is the 7th to the 15th of August this summer. Greece, number 4 in Group A, and Bosnia-Herzegovina are number 5, and the final team amongst Group A are Luxembourg. Over in Group B, Serbia, who were second in this edition in 2019. We've also got Italy. We also have the Faroe Islands, Israel, and Estonia. So the 11 teams have been drawn, and now it is time to turn our attention to the second draw within the Women's 17 Championships, which will be hosted by Klaipėda in Lithuania. Here's a look at the nations that are competing in this half of the competition. In Pot 1, Spain and Iceland. In Pot 2, Lithuania and Poland. Pot 3, Belarus and North Macedonia. Pot 4, Finland and Turkey. Pot 5, Kosovo and Latvia. And finally in Pot 6, Great Britain. So guys, it's back to you again for the next draw.
The draw procedure is a very little different because now Lithuania as organizer is in Pot 2. So we will start with Pot 6 with Great Britain, Pot 5, 4, 3 and 1. And after Pot 1 is drawn, Lithuania has the choice to choose the group, and we start with Pot 6. And the same procedure applies. Great Britain goes to Group A. We continue with Pot 5. And the first team, Kosovo, goes to row 5, Group A. Latvia. We continue with Pot 4. Finland goes to row 4, Group A. And Turkey to row 4, Group B. We continue with Pot 3. It's North Macedonia, goes to row 3, Group A. And Belarus, Group B, in row 3. We continue with pot 1 for row 1. And the first team in row 1, Group A, is Spain. And row 1, Group B, complete so far with Iceland. And now we have the red ball for Lithuania. And Lithuania is asked for their decision which group they want to join.
Thank you, guys. Then, whilst we are waiting for the Lithuanian Federation to make that decision, let's take a quick look at what to expect from the Women's 17 EHF Championship 2021. So far, before that final pot is drawn, actually I can tell you already that Lithuania have chosen pot A. So before we go on, we may as well head back to Peter and Marcus to complete the draw.
The last team drawn for the Women's 17 Championship in Lithuania is now done, and it's the team Poland, which goes to Group B.
So that completes the lineup then for the Women's 17 EHF Championships in 2021 in Klaipėda in Lithuania. So a quick rundown of the two groups that will be competing for this championship in Lithuania. Group A comprises of Spain, the host Lithuania, of course, who just made that decision just a moment ago, North Macedonia, Finland, Kosovo, and Great Britain. In Group B, we've got Iceland, who were runners-up in this edition of the competition in 2019, and also Poland, who were bronze medalists in this edition in the same year, 2019. They'll also be facing Belarus, Turkey, and Latvia in Group B. So just one final recap before we move on to our next draw. It's Group A: Spain, Lithuania, North Macedonia, Finland, Kosovo, and Great Britain. And in Group B, we've got Iceland and Poland, who I just mentioned, who were second and third in this edition 2 years ago, alongside Belarus, Turkey, and Latvia. So now moving on, we are now at the stage of the Women's 19 Championship draw. We've got two draws, one taking place in North Macedonia and the other in Italy. But first we head to the first one, which will be containing the nations competing in Skopje in North Macedonia. And here's a look at the pots. Pot 1 will be containing Iceland and the Netherlands. Pot 2, the Faroe Islands and Poland. And pot 3, Belarus and North Macedonia. Pot 4, Finland and Kosovo. Pot 5, Bosnia-Herzegovina and Great Britain. So for the penultimate tie, let's head back to Peter and Marcus.
As you could see, North Macedonia is in pot 3. That means we start with pot 5, continue with pot 4, 2 and 1, before North Macedonia has the choice to find the group. And we immediately can start with pot 5. And the first team in row 5, which goes to Group A, is Great Britain. And the second team for Group B, Bosnia-Herzegovina. We continue with row 4. And to Group A goes Finland. And Kosovo goes to Group B. We continue with pot 2 for row 2. And the first team in row 2, Group A, Poland. And Faroe Island goes to Group B in row 2. Now we come to pot 1. And the first team in pot 1, which goes to Group A, is Iceland. Row 1, Group B, Netherlands. So now we take the red ball for North Macedonia, because they have the right to choose the group. It's correct, North Macedonia. Okay, let's wait for the decision.
Okay, so before we get the decision from the North Macedonian Federation, let's have a look at how the groups currently look. In Group A, Iceland, Poland, Finland and Great Britain. And in Group B so far, the Netherlands, Faroe Islands, Kosovo and Bosnia-Herzegovina. Just a reminder, of course, that this competition, well, this part of the competition in North Macedonia will be taking place between the 10th and the 18th of July this summer. And just as we wait for confirmation from the Macedonian Federation, they'll either be going obviously in Group A or B. In Group A, Iceland. Group B, Poland. Group A, Iceland, Poland, Finland and Great Britain. And in Group B, the Netherlands, the Faroe Islands, Kosovo and Bosnia-Herzegovina. Of course, Group A, we have Poland, who were runners-up in this edition in 2019, and will be hoping to go one better this year. So we're still waiting on the decision from North Macedonia. It's either Group A or B, obviously. Belarus, the other federation, waiting for confirmation of which which group that they will be going into. Of course, this will be following other draws, of course, and we've got one more draw to come after this, which will be the second draw in Pescara in Italy. But we've just got confirmation from North Macedonia that they would like to go into Group B. So they head into Group B, which means Belarus will go into Group A, but that's not official until Peter and Marcus have done the honours. So it's back to them we head.
Okay, hello again. The last step in this Women's 19 Championship is now done, with Belarus going to Group A. Thank you so far.
So there we go. with North Macedonia making that decision, we have our lineup for the Women's 19 EHF Championship draw. The part of the draw, of course, which will be taking place in Skopje, the capital of North Macedonia, between the 10th and the 18th of July. So let's take a look at a rundown of the two groups of 5. Iceland, Poland, Belarus, Finland and Great Britain making up Group A. The Netherlands, Faroe Islands, North Macedonia, Kosovo and Bosnia-Herzegovina making up Group B. As I mentioned a couple of moments ago, it's Poland who have the pedigree in this competition, having been second in 2019. But we're now finally set for our final draw, and that is for the Women's 19 Championship that will be taking place in Pescara in Italy. And here are the 8 teams that will be making up this final draw this morning here. Pot 1, we've got Spain and Serbia. In Pot 2, Italy, the hosts, and Lithuania. Pot 3 contained Georgia and Turkey, and finally it's Bulgaria and Israel that will come out of Pot 4. So, for the last time, let's head back to Peter and Marcus.
So, the Women's 19 Championship draw starts with Pot 4. We continue with Pot 3, go to Pot 1, because Italy is in Pot 2, and they also have the right to choose the group after row 4, 3 and 1 are determined. So, let's start with Pot 4 for row 4. And the first team, Bulgaria, goes to row 4, Group A. Israel for row 4, Group B. We continue with Pot 3. The team that goes to row 3, Group A, is Turkey. Row 3, Group B, Georgia. We step to Pot 1 for row 1. And row 1, Group A, is reserved for Serbia. And Spain goes to Group B in row 1. So now the blue one. It's the host, Italy, and they now have the right to choose Group A or Group B where they want to play.
Thank you, Peter. So whilst we're waiting for the Italian Federation to make that decision, let's head across to the graphic to tell us how it stands at the moment. In Group A, we've got Serbia, who won the 2019 edition of this 2 years ago. Turkey and Bulgaria. In Group B, we've got Spain, Georgia and Israel. Now, either Italy, the hosts, or Lithuania will go into, obviously, Group A or Group B, as we continue to wait for the decision on behalf of the Italian Federation. Remember, this competition taking place between the 10th and the 18th of July, with hosts Italy hosting this event in Chieti and Pescara, and It will be either Group A or Group B, obviously, as I've said twice already, for Italy or Lithuania, as we continue to wait on tenterhooks for the decision of the Italian Federation. So let's just have another look. Group A, Serbia, Turkey and Bulgaria. In Group B, we have Spain, Georgia and Israel. Still no news from Italy, but just quickly take a look back at the draw from the previous one in North Macedonia. Group A, of course, and Iceland, Poland, Belarus, Finland and Great Britain will be competing in that, alongside in Group B, Netherlands, Faroe Islands, North Macedonia, Kosovo and Bosnia-Herzegovina. Of course, we have all of the information. There's a lot of information to get through. 6 draws in total, and all of the information can be found on our website. Of course, if you want to watch this all back again, you can do so on YouTube and on our Facebook pages as well. We have a big week of club competition action. We've got a full schedule of EHF Champions League and European League all the way up to the weekend. Catch all of that on EHF TV, the place for all of your live handball. Still waiting for the Italian decision. It's going to be Group A or Group B for Italy. It's proving to be a tough decision, whether or not they would like to meet Serbia, Turkey or Bulgaria, or Spain, Georgia or Israel. Of course, in Group A, Serbia, who won this in 2019. It's proving to be a very, very tough decision indeed. Just looking back as well, we've had our draws for the Women's 17 EHF Euro, of course, which will be taking place in Montenegro between the 5th and the 15th of August. Montenegro, who will be lining up in Group A alongside Denmark, Austria and Switzerland. The 8 times medalist Russia of the Women's 17 EHF Euro, I'm talking about here, whilst we're still waiting for Italy. They're in Group B with Slovenia, Sweden and Croatia. In Group C, Slovakia, Hungary, Norway and Portugal. And in Group D, Romania, France, Germany and the Czech Republic. Remember, that is for the Women's 17 EHF Euro in Montenegro. That's between the 5th and the 15th of August. And of course, we also made the draw for the Women's 19 EHF Euro 2021. That's taking place in Celje in Slovenia. Again, there are 16 teams in the hat for that. Denmark, Germany, Slovenia and Switzerland will make up Group A. And Group B was Sweden, Russia, Slovakia and Portugal. In Group C, France, Austria, Montenegro and Croatia. And in Group D, Hungary, Norway, Romania and the Czech Republic. Still waiting for the Italian Federation to make what is obviously proving a tough call to see where they line up. Obviously, this competition taking place across 2 countries between the 10th and the 18th of July. Skopje, North Macedonia, hosting the first part of that competition, and Pescara in Italy holding the second. I'm not sure how much more I can fill here, to be honest with you, but it seems to be a very, very tough decision to make. It's A or B, Italy. Just, if we can just channel. Still waiting for so we're just going to take 5 minutes to think we're having some difficulties getting hold of the Italian Federation to make that decision. So we're going to take 5 minutes until we can complete that. So apologies if you are waiting, you Italian and Lithuanian fans and players, to find out which group you're heading to. So we're just going to take 5 minutes, or obviously hopefully sooner, until we hear from the Italian Federation, and we'll be back with you shortly. Hello and welcome back to the EHF here in Vienna. Having some technical difficulties getting hold of the Italian Federation. So what we're going to do is we're going to end the draw here today, and we will complete the Women's 19 Championship draw that will contain Italy and Lithuania later on today. So I know there's been a lot to get through, and there's been 5 previous draws. You can find all the information regarding the EHF Euro and the Championship for the women's younger age categories of under 17 and under 19 on our official website, and of course across our social media channels. As I said, it's a big week of club competition sport as well, so don't forget to check out EHF TV for all of that. If you want to watch this draw back, of course, you can do. It's all available on YouTube and on Facebook. But finally, my thanks to Peter and Marcus, to all of our IT team here. I wish you a great day from Vienna. Goodbye.